Hello, thank you for your patience. It is nice to be back. I have been looking forward to being back. So, I have got a bag full of stuff, and I've got a bag there, and I've got a loom. So, cup of tea, cup of coffee, make a sandwich perhaps, bag of chips, I don't know. But settle in. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it might be longer than usual. Then again, it might not. Sometimes I surprise myself and get straight to the point. Speaking of getting straight to the point, I've got in my bag some catch-ups from things that I've shown you previously. So, let me just organise my hands. This was on the loom the last time I spoke to you. This is now wet finished and done. No, it's not. Somebody didn't trim the ends. I feel like I have people for that. I don't know who hasn't turned up for work. But so this was on the loom. It's now off the loom, as you can see, and it just needs its ends trimmed because it has been wet finished. And this was the experiment with the skipped dent and the packed warp in the same weave. So a skipped dent, when you're warping up, you've got all your little teeth in your dent, in your heddle, not your dent, in your heddle, it's going well, and you just skip one when you're threading up so that you have a gap. And then the packed warp is just more than one thread in the slot so that you have like a, well, like this, like a raised texture. So this is both. There's packed warp and then a skip dent and then packed warp, and that is pulled together into these thick stripes. I really like this. I like that it's got that texture, but it's still got a nice amount of drape. It's not quite as long as it could have been, but I didn't have as much yarn as I thought I did. So, which is kind of the story of my life. I don't calculate these things, I just jump in. And whatever happens, happens. So that is done, apart from the ends. I'm really pleased with how it's come out. I don't often work in one solid colour, although I've just realised I do sometimes, quite regularly actually work in one solid colour. But I feel like I hadn't done it for a while, so it's nice to just have the one colour in something and a bit of visual interest. And it's quite squishy, which is important in a garment, how squishy it is. So now to catch you up on some other stuff, just put this back in my bag. So there was a sort of wrap that I made a little while ago, I can't remember when. Quite a lot of information's fallen out of my head recently, so bear with. This one, which is a cotton and wool blend. So these coloured warp stripes are cotton, and then the white stripes in between are wool. And when I wet finished it, I was saying I was interested to note that the shrinkage wasn't so different that there was any sort of texture or interest. And I did say I might throw it in the washing machine to see what happened. That's what happened. Nothing. I did end up throwing it in the washing machine, and there's not really any difference at all. But I'm glad I did it because, you know, you don't know these things until you try them. But it has been pressed, so it is looking quite smart. And I have trimmed the ends on that one. So I'm just updating you on that. It did go through the washing machine. Nothing really came of it. Now, I also have, and I cannot remember when I made this. I think it might have been back in June or May even. Do you remember this one? It needs a press. But it is finally wet finished. I don't know why I didn't wet finish this for so long. I just kept sort of moving it around the table and then not getting around to twisting the fringe. So the fringe is twisted. Oh gosh, that does need a press. Oh, and I haven't trimmed the ends. Doing so well. So that is at least wet finished, and it is so soft. I wish you could feel it. I'm holding it up like you can feel it. It's really soft. Nice and drapey because it's a sock yarn. It's bloomed beautifully. So it has finished really well. I just took too long to get around to doing it, and now I need to remember to trim my ends. I'm going to make myself a sampler, a cross-stitch sampler, because I'm so speedy at cross-stitch, saying trim your ends. Now, I think that's all the catch-uppy stuff. Yes, so now I also have something new that I wove while I was away from YouTube, which is this one. So I'm going to put my bag down, so I've got two hands, because I want to show you the length of this. So, this looks like this. It's another scarf, and it's in a colour shifting yarn. It's from Bendigo Woollen Mills. It's their Prism yarn, which is a long colour change yarn. It doesn't repeat. There are no repeats. It's not like a self-striping. It's just a sort of constant shifting colour change. So that is Prism in Rainforest is the coloured yarn there. I think Rainforest. Maybe don't quote me on that. And then the yellow yarn is Bendigo Woollen Mills Classic 8-ply in one of the yellows, possibly Marigold, but again, don't quote me. So on this side, we've got these little patches of yellow with some floats. You can see the floats if I get nice and close. There we go. And then on the other side, we've got a really good yellow stripe. And this has come out exactly how I wanted it to, so I'm very, very happy with it. Now, the way I've done the yellow stripe is, I'll show you the yellow stripe a little bit more because I'm so pleased with my yellow stripe. So if you have a look at my floats, and you're welcome to, you can look at my floats. I'm going to see if I can show you. That's a really difficult angle. There we go. So if you have a look at my floats, you can see, maybe see that there's 3. This has been wet finished, so it's all kind of shrunk in a little bit. But there's 3 floats per group. Ordinarily, with a pickup stick pattern like this, you have 2 floats per group, because you do a float. I'm trying to get this straight in my head so that when I open my mouth it makes sense. It's probably a bit late to be worrying about that, isn't it? So when you have your yarn in a heddle, there's threads in the slot and there's threads in the hole. I'll point that out to you when I hold my loom up shortly. And the ones in the slot are the ones that are easier to manipulate because they have more movement. The ones in the hole are kind of locked in place. The slot threads can move up and down more easily. So ordinarily when you do a float pickup stick pattern like this, you're just manipulating the slot threads because they're the easiest ones to do. So that you would have one pass in the slot threads would have the float, the next pass would have just a plain weave in between, and then another float when you go back through your slot threads. Is this making any sense? In this case, I did the pickup stick for the float for the top and the bottom, and then moved, just manually did it with the shuttle, jumped to the yellow threads to get those floats in the middle, because I wanted this side to have a nice solid looking stripe. And I mean, it's not perfectly solid because of the nature of weaving, but it is a nice solid looking stripe. So I'm really, really pleased with how this has come out. I think it's great. It came out exactly how I wanted it to. So that is what has been on the loom while I've been away. And it was on the loom for most of the time I was away. Look at that. Look at those colours. I'm so excited about this. I said that very deadpan. I am so excited about this. Okay, so now I've got other things to show you. I've got the loom, which I'm going to go and grab because it's just over there, and then I'll also point out the slots and holes situation. Don't worry, I'm here to help. Ish. So let me just put this back in its bag and grab the loom, and I will be right back. And I'm back. Hello. So I'm going to talk to you. Ooh. Uneven ground. I'm okay, I'm fine. Before I talk about this, I'm just going to talk about what I meant about the holes and the slots and the manipulation thereof. So with the heddle in the up position like that, that's where the shuttle goes through in there with your yarn. And these threads are in the holes. I don't know if that's showing up very well, but they don't really move very much because they're locked into place because they're in the holes. The ones in the slots in the down shed, so I've still got my shed there, these have a lot more movement because they can move up and down in that slot, so they're easier to manipulate with a pickup stick. You can't really manipulate the whole threads with a pickup stick. You have to do it manually like I did on the stripy scarf. Now, can I get back into neutral? Yes. This is what's on the loom. So this is a bundle of hand-dyed sock yarn that I bought from Etsy. I'll put a link in the description. It's from Maker Moran on Etsy. And they come in a bundle of 20 little tiny balls like that. Look at that. Obviously I didn't use all of them because I've got that one there. I've got a couple more as well. I used, I think, 16 of them to warp up this scarf. And the way I did it was to throw them all into a clean plant pot. You could also use a bowl or even a hat, and then draw them out one at a time without looking, so that it was a random warping up of these colours. Now for the weft, I've got this, and I don't know that that's going to show up very well. It's very bright white. It is a cotton slub. So if I can get closer without like being weird about it, you might be able to see, I don't know that you can, there's a little bit of texture in that. There's some sort of thick parts here where the slubs are. Slub is just where the cotton isn't twisted as tightly. Now I was using a 4-ply white merino, and it was overpowering the colours, and the colours weren't showing up very well. General colour theory will tell you that using a light coloured a light coloured weft, if you go back you can see where the wheels fell off in real time, will wash out your colours a little bit anyway. And so with it being a perfectly balanced weave, the colours were just kind of disappearing behind the white. With this thinner cotton, the colours are showing up nicely. I've got that texture from the cotton slub, and very fresh on the loom as always. There's the hem stitching. So we'll see how that goes. That's pretty much the end of that sentence. I've got a fair bit to do. I don't know how long I warped it up. Again, I didn't measure. But that is just because I really wanted to play with with these little tiny... They're so cute. I've got quite a lot left over because I couldn't get 3... I can get two slots or 2 threads per ball, and then I didn't have quite enough to do 3. So I've got a little bit left over that I can play with later with something else. So that is on the little loom. There's nothing on the big loom at the moment because I am, in theory, planning to do some sewing in theory. In practice, that has simply not been happening. But I also have a market coming up, which horrifyingly is next month, because I kept thinking, oh, it's not till September, don't even worry about it. And then I realised this is August. This is not good. So I've got to do a little bit of weaving for that. So I might get the big loom out and sort of, you know, do two at the same time, one in each hand. No. I wonder if I could weave with my feet. This is not the time to find out. Now, the crochet. I'm just going to show you the crochet and then I'm going to let you get back to your day. So let me just get myself slightly organised for the first time in my life, and I'll be back again. Enjoy the view briefly. Hang on, I'm coming back. Okay, I'm back and I'm not falling over, I promise. Maybe. No, I think we're good. So, the last time you saw this, it was small after it had been big because I frogged it. So I had frogged it back to... Where did I frog it back to? To here. So I'm basically one round ahead of where I was when I frogged it. And it is a lot less curly. It is not completely uncurly, but it is a lot less curly. And it is looking like... Is that the right side? No, I don't think it is. I'm going to show you this side instead. But then I'm going to get that out of the way. Like that. It looks like this at the moment. So there is a bit of a curl, but it is flattening as I go. So this little curl at the bottom here that you can see will flatten. It's okay. I'm still on the first ball of yarn. The only reason that you might have spotted a join in there. I'm holding that upside down perhaps. Yeah. So there is a join in there which I've got to weave those ends in for because there was a manufacturer's knot which I didn't want to incorporate. So there's one armhole. Where's the other? There we go. So there it is, the right way up. So I've got one more round of V-stitches to do because this mesh here is all V-stitches, as you can see. And then I've got some fancy stuff happening. So the outer border is actually quite, it's a really, really satisfying pattern. And I can't wait to show you when I get when I get to it, because I've been just showing you this mesh for quite some time. But that is where that is up to. Progressing slowly, but it is progressing. And yeah, one more round of the V-stitches just to reinforce, I think, the sleeve holes. It does still fit, even though I frogged it. And that's got quite a lot of dog hair in it. But it's for me, so it's not really important. Anyway, that is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on. I feel like I've given you quite a lot to think about. I feel like Anyway, if I wasn't clear, if I made no sense, if something was confusing about this video, not in general, do ask in the comments and I'm happy to clarify for you. So, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself and I will see you soon. Bye for now.